Final hour for the week. Overdrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Bryan Hayes, Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles, McLennan, Dear Hazy B later in the hour. Mike Rupp of the NHL Network coming up here in a moment. Former New Jersey Devil get his take on Jack Hughes last night. Jack Hughes been pretty animated really all week. And I think, you're noticing around the NHL, teams are getting a little bit flustered. You're into February here. You got 30 games left, if not less. Like, it's time to get cooking, man, if you got issues.
Do you remember a season with so many kind of, like, negative turns where teams are just, like, I don't know, it just seems like the ups and downs have been so radical. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. You know what it is, though, the parity, but it's also the pressure. Like, we talked about it last year. The Vegas Golden Knights went and won a Stanley Cup 6 years into existence. You don't think other owners and other, fan bases are going, what the hell? Like, I mean, to me, the pressure has mounted. Social media brings that too, not just in Canada, all over, expectations and the parity. We do it every night. We talk about rosters and lay them on top of each other and go, that team can beat this team. And like, it's a crapshoot. So the expectation, and you watch Bill Foley go, yeah, we're going to have some LTIR stuff. We're going to spend to the cap. We're going to do it. And we got a Stanley Cup out of it. Mm-hmm. Like, to me, that adds to the pressure. How many coaches have been fired? Like,
crazy amount in 12 months. Crazy amount.
Yeah. Like, look at, isn't it 13? I think you're right. I think it's 13 coaches from a year ago have been removed. That's 13. It's almost half the league.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, Columbus double dipped there, I guess, technically. Yeah. So it's like 12 team. Now they fired their GM. Like, Columbus, man. Woo. And it's just not a good scene out there. And
but when you fire the GM, don't you got to have a guy, or do you just say you got to get out and then we're going to look for a guy? I don't know. It's
John Davidson, I guess it's his job, right? He's been in that role many times before.
And you fire him 3 weeks before the trade deadline. So that's the thing. You're saying you don't want him to make trades at the deadline. So I imagine John Davidson and his management group will be doing that, because you're not just going to, unless you're parachuting somebody in there that you've been circling and say, this is my guy. But the other day, we did the game. We did the Columbus game, whatever. It was Tuesday. That was the 11-year anniversary of Jarmo Kekalainen taking over.
That's crazy,
so he's been there 11 years.
Crazy.
11 years.
11-year run.
But so I thought, we were talking about it at Media Meal yesterday. What is the successes they've had? They beat, was it the Leafs in the
They beat Tampa.
bubble?
They beat the Leafs in the bubble. That was big. But the Tampa sweep, that's their biggest moment in franchise history by a mile.
Yeah,
by a mile.
And now they've had Rick Nash, who won the Hart 1 year with 41 goals. I think, or not the Hart.
Did he win
Rocket,
the Hart? Yeah, I don't think he won the Hart.
I think he won the Rocket that year. I think he tied with Iggy or something. But like they haven't had a lot of successes, but they've won a few playoff rounds here and there. But that's 11 years on the job. Mm-hmm. Like, it's, so the pressure, to me, getting back to your point, like, I think it's the pressure of the league going, owners saying, we're spending $85 million a year. What are we getting back here? Like, that's really what I would say.
Yeah, I think you're right. I do think that is the case. And as we talked about a couple hours ago, with no trades and no movements and a hard salary cap, players, you can't move on from a lot of players. And the guys you can move on from, you don't want to, because you like them. They're good players. So you get a scenario where naturally the owner's like, well, explain to me why we're just going to continue to keep doing this. And someone's got to take a fall for it, and it's the coach. And that's what Tortorella was saying in town yesterday, that, the role of coach in the league is, in his opinion, I believe he said very disrespected or something along those lines. I think he was indicating that basically it's not always a cop-out. There are coaches that need to go, clearly, that either aren't getting the job done or never getting the job done, or it had just, outstayed their welcome. But a lot of times it is a cop-out. Like, we can't trade anyone, can't do anything. The GM's not going to fire himself. So make a move. All right, I'll fire the coach. Yeah, that's how you get so much turnover. Dear Hazy B later in the hour. Here is former NHL or NHL Network analyst. Here's Mike Rupp joining us back on Overdrive. How you doing, Mike?
I'm good, fellas. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. We're just talking about, the nature of the season where, it seems like there's a lot of volatility in the league. A lot of players showing emotion, showing frustration, coaches doing the same, coaches getting fired, GMs getting fired. Like, is this just standard procedure in your opinion? Like we see this every year in the NHL, or does it feel a little bit more volatile this season?
And the sky's falling. It feels like that a lot of times. Yeah, Joel. You know what I wonder? I wonder if it's. I mean, I don't know if I feel like it's any more right now, but I wonder if just kind of the way that the league is now, with if it's parity or whatever phrase you want to use, I wonder if it's because so many teams are in the mix for so long that there starts to be, levels of frustration and. I don't know. It just feels it feels like there's nowadays with the points that you can get and going to the extra frames, you stay in races longer than you probably should. I feel like there's a illusion that teams will have and players will have of what they are, and I think there's frustration when you're not playing well and there's going to be a reaction. I think that's sometimes where these moves are made and decisions are made, and it's tough because you can also go to the standpoint where you got teams that are coming up to deadline and you don't know if they're going to sell or not sell or what the situation is with UFAs. And it's like, I mean, some of the teams, if you look in the mirror, I mean, I get it. Getting in the playoffs and getting some playoff gate is big, but there's a few teams out there. You can't tell me you think you're going to go on a run with the squad. So I think that it's almost like you gotta get rid of assets and or get rid of pieces and add some assets. And it feels like everybody gets a little squirrely this time of year.
Yeah, no question. And we referenced Jack Hughes, and I understand why people in Jersey, players in jerseys have been they've been frustrated. But goaltending wasn't the issue last night. The offense didn't show up, but Jack was breaking sticks, throwing them on the ice, going at it with players. And Jersey's one of those teams coming in. A lot of people, myself included, fully expected that they'd cruise to the playoffs.
Add a goalie, win a cup, I thought it was.
Kind of felt that way. Yeah. And now, I don't know how you feel, Mike, but it certainly doesn't feel like it's even a lock that they're going to make the playoffs at this point.
No, it's true. And, the goaltending has not been there. But the one thing I think last year, and the team was very exciting as far as scoring goals. They're an offensive team. They played at a lot of pace, but they actually defended really well too, and they're predictable for their goaltenders. So, where the goaltenders just simply haven't been to the level they were last year, this year. But I don't think the defending in front of them has been the same either. So, they seem like a shell of themselves. But I still think there's enough time here. I like this roster. I think having Jack out for all that time certainly didn't help them, and they've been a dinged-up group. But, I think Tom Fitzgerald, I don't think he's the type that is going to sit back and say, well, maybe next year when we're healthy, we've got a lot of our core pieces and big-time pieces in place here for years to come. We'll live to fight another day. I think he's going to go for it, right? So I think he's going to make that goalie trade here in the coming days. He's going to swing for it, and this is a team that, again, they haven't shown me any signs this year that they are the team from last year, but they're a team that could do some damage, but they have to get goaltending. Like, the goaltending has not been good at all season long. So I think they get in because it's probably more so. I'm not overly impressed with some of the other teams that are pushing to get in the East. So when I look at the East, I don't think Toronto's coming out. Like, I get where Toronto is kind of falling into that wild card one. Like, they're not coming out of the playoffs. So there's going to be one spot available. Do you believe in Detroit? Do you believe in
Philly?
Some of the other teams, the Islanders. Yeah, Philly. Yeah. I mean, Philly I thought would be a team that would drop out. I thought it would be Philly, Detroit out, Jersey, Pittsburgh in. I still feel that, but I think time is getting a little nitty-gritty here for the Penguins as well. So we'll see what those teams do in the next couple weeks.
Rupper, your NHL network, you're around a lot of hockey people talking a lot of hockey behind closed doors. what is the conversation? Take us behind the scenes, but what's the Leaf conversation when you guys are sitting in the back room watching games and the Maple Leafs come up in conversation? Just give us a break for 1 hour and let's hear your thoughts and other people's thoughts in that building.
Oh, man. I don't know, man. I think the bigger thing for me right now, I think the Eastern Conference is, we said all year, and I felt like it all year, it's wide open, right? Like I didn't feel like there was a team that was running away with really anything, that it was available for any team to just play right at the right time. And I think what I'm starting to feel now is I kind of feel like Eastern Conference is going to have to run through Sunrise, Florida. Mm-hmm. And the Panthers and what they do, they're a throwback, old school, against the grain of any way that teams are playing nowadays, and I think it's a weapon for them. And they're tough. Boston, I think they're right there. I think right now I think the Panthers are the only team that could probably beat Boston in the East. And then there's everybody else. And so when you talk about the Leafs, I mean, I think the Leafs have as good of a chance as the New York Rangers, and I like the New York Rangers. I like the Leafs. I think that they're starting. They show me glimpses now and again. I've been on with you guys in recent years. I've been beating the drum for years. That I mean, not to bring up, the Morgan Riley stuff. You're probably sick of talking about. Mm-hmm. I thought that was an amazing response. You have to have it. Am I glad he got suspended 5 games? No, I don't think it was even. I don't think he should have gotten suspended 5 games. But it's bigger to me that was a knee-jerk reaction right away. Don't have to think about it. That's the reaction. I've seen that a few different times this year, and that's not. This Leafs team has so many more strengths than paying attention to things like that. But that tells me that there's this passion and this pride, right? And I always bring it back to, like, we've been in those NHL locker rooms, and it sounds stupid for people that are on the outside and they're not in those rooms. But how many times, like, we talk about the sacred logo on the floor in the locker room? I mean, media people probably think that's the dumbest thing in the world, and they just get lambasted if they step on it. But, it's a pride thing. You know what I mean? It's the jerseys you take off, practice jersey, game jersey, you go to throw it in the laundry bin. You hit the ground, your teammate that's standing right there scoops it up real quick, right? Well, A, it's a fine, but B, like, we don't throw our jerseys on the ground. There's something to be said when these things sound foolish, but when you have that pride and that togetherness of what the logo is and standing up for each other and making sure that, it's just, I'm not saying you're going to win a cup because of that, but if you don't have that kind of reaction that Morgan Riley had, I guarantee you won't win a cup. You know what I mean? Like, there's no guarantee it's gonna land home Lord Stanley for you. But I've seen enough and been around enough teams. I'm sure you guys can say the same. That you have to have a little bit of blank you in your attitude and your swagger. And I feel like the Leafs are starting to get that. So I don't know. Long-winded answer. I think they got a shot. I'm really interested to see how they address this trade deadline time. The big guys being the big guys. That's never been the problem for me. Come playoff time, they just got to get the goaltending and a couple guys that throw a little gasoline on the fire once in a while. I think it'd serve them well.
Rupper, the biggest surprise in the league so far, as far as a consistency effort, would it be Vancouver? Like, did you see that coming? Did you think that Vancouver is going to be the top of the league or right near there, just based on what they have on their roster? But, they haven't really dropped off. If anything, they just continue to get stronger and stronger.
Yeah. Listen, I have not believed in them all season. As far as, like, I love what they're doing. Don't get me wrong there. I love what they've done. They've addressed different things. They have a good-looking roster from top to bottom. They have star power all clicking at the same time. There's just something in me that feels like they're not going to be able to get it done in the playoffs. And I thought a lot of this year was the sustainability of what they're doing. But Vancouver fans, they're quick to let me know that I don't know what I'm talking about.
If they haven't let you know, they're going to let you know after this interview. I'm telling you that.
No, I know. But I will say this though, they're proving me wrong up to this point because I thought there would have been the drop off already. I just find that now when I watch them play, I don't know how to verbalize it. There's just something. I mean, they're entertaining. They've got studs galore around that roster. There's just something when I'm watching the game where I'm like, there's a lot of games that they win that I'm not very impressed at their overall play in the game. And you can say, because I also say at times, you got to win games that you don't deserve to win. That's playing in the National Hockey League. That you got to find a way to eke them out. I just feel like they do that a little too often, right? And all those numbers that you're looking at with shooting percentages, and everybody kind of playing it at an all-world level. You feel like there's going to be a little bit of a market correction with that, but there hasn't been. And I'm brought to thinking last year, I thought the same thing with Seattle Kraken. Like the Seattle Kraken were scoring at such a clip last year. I'm like, there's no way they're going to be able to sustain this. This team might not even make the playoffs. They held up through 82. They held up into the playoffs. So you can sustain playing out of your boots for a full season. I feel like it's going to catch up. The clock's going to strike midnight at some point for Vancouver here. Put it this way, I'd much rather see the Vancouver Canucks in the playoffs than I would the Winnipeg Jets, than I would the Edmonton Oilers. Heck, I'll be honest with you, probably more than I'd rather have a matchup like Vancouver than I would the Toronto Maple Leafs. And people will be like, you're nuts, you're crazy, whatever. Listen, I'll put my foot in my mouth if I'm wrong on that. There's just something that's standing out to me that they're not quite there yet.
That's how you balance it out, Rupper. You get Vancouver after you, but Winnipeg and Edmonton are like, yes, we love it. We can support you.
Hey,
we love hearing that.
All my views are based on population of cities. So when I lose a million or two here, I got to pick up a couple as well. So
exactly.
That's how I do it.
Yeah, no, I like it. Very wise. We saw Connor Bedard just return. We'll get you out of here on a prediction for him the rest of the way. He obviously had an unbelievable start. Chicago's a mess. They can't score. They can't win. It's going to get really ugly. But, what do you expect for him the rest of the way? But also, how quickly do you think they can turn that around? Because it's a really bad scene, and he's so good, and he's 18, and he's cheap, and he won't be cheap for long.
Yeah, I was shocked, probably like everybody else. I was working the Pens game last night, and then to hear that he's back, I'm like, okay, here we go. I mean, I thought it was, with him being out a little while longer, I thought this was probably going to be Brock Faber that runs away with this or gets this Calder, for Rookie of the Year. But with Bedard back, I mean, he's so fun to watch out there on the ice. But you're right, there's not a ton out there to play with, right? And they're pretty banged up too. So, I always look at it and I wonder, and you think back to some of those other guys when they came in. I mean, I played against that same Blackhawks team when Patty Kane came in. That was an awful hockey club. Like, they were brutal. And I go back to even when Sidney Crosby came in, how bad the Pittsburgh Penguins were. Like, this is all kind of part of it, right? So I actually love the fact that the kid pushed the envelope to get back, because there's not much there that's would make you really want to get back and play. Not necessarily to get back and play. I'm sure it's an honor to play in the NHL, but just, you want to make sure you're all healed up and ready to go. And I like that he's pushing it. And, it's going to be a long stretch down this run here, because they have a very bleak lineup. They're going to be picking obviously very high again. We'll see what they do, but they got a special one with him. He's fun to watch.
Absolutely. All right, Mike. Great stuff, buddy. Appreciate you doing this. We'll do it again down the road.
All right, guys. Thanks. Enjoy.
Yep, Mike Rupp of the NHL Network. Mail-In and Fridays brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. From tip-offs to tie bites and puck drops to pizza, BP's elite lineup of apps, wings, and ice-cold beers always dialed in for game time. Hustle into your local BP tonight. All right, Dear Hazy B coming up. Dear Hazy B, Leafs Ducks tomorrow, NBA All-Star Weekend down in Indianapolis. Toronto, Montreal, battle on Bay Street, PWHL going on tonight. Pitchers and catchers have arrived. Tigers withdrawn from the Genesis. There's a lot going on. OverDrive continues. Yeah. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
Insight, the ability to see and understand why you do the things you do.
Dear Hazy B.
We're going to go down there and have a donkey barbecue, and I'm going to furnish the ass, right?
You don't want to hide a Mars bar in your sleeping bag when there's a bear outside the tent.
I came back for this segment only because it makes me feel good to help people. Right?
Yeah, it's very fulfilling, quite frankly. I mean, not that it's about us; it's about the people
others.
and helping.
And we've
people,
we've got a well-rounded bunch of questions this week. And Hazy B, I'd like you to start for this one.
Okay.
Dear Hazy B, girlfriend's dad is staying with us temporarily. All he does is sit in the basement drinking rye and listening to Sultans of Swing on repeat in his underpants in the dark. He only emerges to smoke Colts in the garage and raid the fridge late at night. This is the last part of it. Do I fight him? Question mark.
Where do we find these people? And where do these father-in-laws exist that are just hanging out in the basement?
I don't know.
Like smoking Colts. Do you know, like those things are so. They're just. I haven't had one of those in probably 20 years, but they were nasty. It was it was a grind.
Terrible.
It was a grind getting through those.
You smoke a Colt or an Old Port, I think it was called, the thin ones.
Yeah.
With the wine tip. I'd smoke a few of these.
I haven't even heard that in like probably 15 years.
Those stinky old dirty wine tips.
Yeah, those things are awful.
So, the wine tip, I think they're called Colts, aren't they?
Yeah, Colt wine tips.
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly. I think it was like, it used to be like a yellow carton, I think, and I remember them well. They were terrible. I guess. What are you supposed to say to that? Sure, fight the guy.
No, but I mean, what are you going to do about the guy? You got to tell him to clean up his act and say, there's a golden standard rule of staying at someone's house. If you're not paying rent, you got to contribute. You got to shovel the driveway, do laundry, buy groceries. You can't just float and act like a bozo down in the basement.
Yeah, exactly. This is not a midlife crisis, zone, right? This is not like a center for a midlife crisis where the father-in-law's coming by and he just wants to booze and listen to music and smoke Colts and, do whatever he's doing down there. You can't have it. Like, if you're going to be a part of it, you got to show face. You have to clean up after yourself. I mean, it's just ridiculous. At some point, you just got to talk to your wife and say, you got to get this guy out of here. Like, unless there's something we're not familiar with, like some sort of issue that he's not allowing us to be privy to, I think it's more so just get out. Forget the fight. Just be like, you got to get out of here. Can't be here anymore.
Yeah.
Come on.
Wow, those are
no
tough
fighting.
words.
That's really tough. But that's what kind of lifestyle is that? Like, what is that guy doing?
Dude,
what is he all about? It's
Maybe
one thing if it's a weekend. Come on over. Come on over for a weekend, but it can't be 3 months. You're not running a dorm. It's not a dormitory.
You know how it works in relationships. Sometimes when it's hers, when it's if it was yours, it would be like hell to pay. Get this guy out of here. But when it's someone else's, it's like, nothing to see here. Anyway, tell him to clean up his act. Noodles, this one specifically asked for you.
All right.
Dear Hazy B, a couple of weekends ago, I met this girl at a bar. She asked me my age, and I said 22 instead of 19. Thinking nothing serious would come out of it, she's 24. She thought I looked much older than 22. We have hung out since, and it's getting more serious. I have repeatedly made comments about how life used to be like when I was 19.
What an idiot.
Oh, no.
At what point do I come clean? Is it too late? Question mark. And then it says, I want Noodles' input first.
All right. Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, this is tough because at some point you get deep into the relationship, the honesty is going to have to come out. Like if you go to the States, for example, and
but Noodles, let's cut to it.
Exactly.
When does this guy get to the meat of it and say, "You like me? You got to deal with one thing. I'm 19."
Yeah, I think that conversation, it's sailed. I think you need to have it after, like, because let's see where the relationship goes. If it fizzles out,
I don't think
it's not
sailed.
A big deal. I believe me, it's a lie. You've started on lies. But ultimately, if you like her and she likes you, age is just a number. Like, it's not like, it's – so I think if you end up saying I love you and all of that, there is something I need to tell you.
Yeah,
like,
no
I don't
kidding.
know.
I would think so. I mean, come on. You got to just step up and say you're such. I don't know why I'm in such a bad mood. I am not the guy you want to come to.
Dude,
with
you're
this
a
kind of
pissed
stuff.
off
Why are you
Dr.
so
Phil
crabby
today,
today?
man.
What's crabby about it is why would you dig yourself a deeper hole by being like, I remember when I was 19. It's not like you're in your 50s and you're 20. You're pretending to be 22.
I know why he said it though, because he's probably
He thought
trying
she
to get
looked
her to
more
go.
kind of like growing up, and he said, "I can't."
That doesn't do it. 3 years
No.
does not make you feel like you're some grizzled veteran. It's if I was talking about when I was 19, that would count. I'm 40. When you're 22, when we were 22, no one was like, "Man, I remember when I was 19. It was wild back then." Remember that era? That was crazy. It was 3 years ago.
It's 3 years. Like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. If you're together, when's he turning 20? Because that's really the next thing. If you're 20 and she's 23, coming 24, it's not a big deal. 19 seems like a stretch, like the number.
Teenager, you're still a teenager.
And she's going to look at it and go, I'm dating a teenager.
Right.
Get the hell out of here.
Can't have it.
That's where you just got to stretch it to when you're 20, then you break it to her and move on. You guys are – and if the relationship goes, go with it. I know a guy, and I'm not going to sue him or whatever, but a buddy of mine – was with a girl for like 2 years. They were getting married, and she broke it to him that she was younger than she had said.
How much younger, though? Like
like
crazy.
a couple of years, but
2 months before the wedding, she told her.
To me,
I would say,
wild.
get lost. I cannot.
What else are you hiding? That's the thing.
Well, but it wasn't like she was illegal or anything like that. But it was, you think your bride to be is 26 and she's 23. And you're like, oh, well, that was weird. Like, why didn't you tell me?
It's a little
weird.
Bit weird.
That's weird as
That's
hell.
Really
man.
weird. That's what I'm saying. Exactly. It's weird, dude. Step up and say you're actually 19. Like, what are you doing? You're going to go to if you end up having a relationship here and you can have a 20th birthday party and someone's throwing a surprise for you and she walks in the door.
You know what you got to do? I don't know what kind of game you got, but you take her to a highfalutin restaurant.
He doesn't have that game. He's 19.
Dude, listen,
he doesn't have it.
You got to go to Harbor 60
No.
and stand up before your beer comes and say, this is a classy spot, and I'm 19 and I'm taking you here. Do you want to stick
the hell
with
out
me?
of here?
That's what you do.
Harbor 60. He ain't going to Harbor 60.
But you got to do something like that. You got to put together a big league night and say, this is a big-time night, and you deserve it, but I'm 19. Okay. You're going to stick with me or gas me?
All right.
Dear Hazy B, broke up with my girlfriend last week, not on good terms. She got me Leaf ticks for Christmas, games tomorrow night. Big issue, though, she never sent me the e-tickets.
Oh, no.
Might be a jerk move if I call her to claim my present. Do I swallow my pride so I can see the buzz?
Dude, there is a 0% chance
you're
be
getting quiet.
Those tickets, man.
You got to ask.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you
no.
damn
Okay, go ahead
do.
and ask, but I can tell you what the answer is. The answer, you have two options. The answer is either a complete ghosting, flushing, block number, don't even bother me, or a selfie when she's in the seats with the middle finger, saying, actually, I'm at the game, and here's my new guy, and, how dare you ask me to get the tickets I gave you when it sounds as if this guy was the one that pulled the shoot, right? You can't. Come on, dude. You're not getting those tickets. Like, what are we talking about here? There's no way you're getting those seats.
Dude, but is he a gutless weasel if he's you're pissed off Dr. Phil?
Here's what he should have thought of. Get the tickets before you break up. Right before. Now, that's a weasel move.
That's a weasel
but,
move, yeah.
Hey, I forgot about that. You ever get those tickets? Send them over. I'll throw them in my wallet 2 days later. By the way, see you later. You can't go back to the well afterwards. You can't. After a breakup, you're not going to get those tickets, man. There's no way. She's either sold them or she's going with someone else. Maybe Doogie's going with her tomorrow night.
Well, didn't Doogie go through something like that? Didn't he invite her to the game and she was like, "No, I'm good"?
It turned out she had some reunion or something, and Doogie probably told her that he was 30, and then she found out he wasn't. She's like,
Doogie, have you ever lied about your age?
Never lied about the age before.
Attaboy Doogie. See, Doogie's a man of authority. Yeah, that's good, Doogie. Why would you lie about that? Why put yourself in a bad spot?
We've all lied about our age. We've all lied about our age.
Yes, to get into bars and stuff.
Yeah, 16 years old, going to a strip club in Edmonton with a fake ID. You're lying about your age.
Of course you are, but that's different context. Of course, we've lied about our age, but not 6 weeks into a relationship lying about age. I've never done that.
No.
But yeah, of course, lying about your age to get into different establishments, of course.
Dear Hazy B, I'm trekking down to Florida for a golfing trip with three of the boys in March. But the wife gave me the rules that the trip should be strictly on the green and at the resort only, and no crazy business in a nightlife setting, in quotations, for the entire trip. Do I follow her guidelines and respect her commands? ? Is this healthy? ? Need your help big time.
Well, I don't really quite understand why those type of guidelines would ever be levied. I've been on trips. My wife, I'll check in. I'll always tell her what we're up to or where we're going. I've never had it. I don't know why. Like, it makes me wonder what kind of activity this guy's been up to in the past on other trips where.
Exactly.
He claims.
If you're getting told, keep this like you have to sleep on the 18th green and then wake up and go to the putting green, you've been up to some monkey business in the past.
Yes.
There's just no other way around it.
Absolutely. And from that standpoint, I guess, go down and tee it. But at the same time, what are you going to do? If your buddies are going to floor it, what are you going to sit at the place? You're not going to do that. So you're going out. Have a good time. Be responsible. Be smart. Check in when you say you're going to check in. Floor it. Go tee it. And come back and just say we had a good time and it was quiet.
And if it doesn't work, asking for forgiveness is better than permission.
Yeah, it's a big trip. Come on.
Go and put the pedal down and see what happens.
Go and have fun. Exactly.
Absolutely.
There's no parameters when you go on vacation, like set by your significant other.
No.
Like, then, what type of relationship you have if she's like, she should say, go have a great time. We'll see you when you get home. That's
Go have a blast. Exactly. Check in. The kids probably want to see you before bed, or if you can FaceTime, whatever. We've all been down that road. We all do it.
Exactly.
Outside of that, what are you going to do? Exactly. Like, set up a tent at the first tee, and you can't do that. I mean, come on. Be realistic.
This one's kind of greasy, but I don't know what you guys think. Dear Hazy B, sitting behind a guy at the Leaf game this week that had a newish hat land in his lap after the McCann empty net goal for the hat trick. The guy took a look at it and decided to keep it. Call him out, or is that a veteran move?
So I'm gathering that was thrown from like the greens up top, and it landed in the platinums, and it's like a sick hat. And
the guy just said, "You know what? That's going on my head and going right home."
I think it's a greasy move. I think it's okay if it's like a novelty hat, like if it was a hat giveaway or some guy's got like a foam hat. But if it's like a cool hat that someone was willing to donate to Bobby McMahon and the hat trick. And my understanding is these rinks generally will collect the hats. I don't know if they do this anymore, but you can go get your hat after the game.
No, what?
That's what I always used to hear.
No,
I don't know if that's the case everywhere, but they
those go in giant garbage bags and they're thrown out.
Yeah. Well, if that's the case, then I guess do whatever you want, because whoever threw the hat got rid of the hat. Doesn't think they're ever getting the hat back, right? And if it's a cool hat, it landed, you threw it on, it looks butter. It's greasy. It's definitely greasy.
Wash, though? Would you not?
Yeah, you'd probably want to throw in something like that. You're right. I mean, that's probably a wise decision. But the point being is you didn't steal the hat. The hat landed in your lap. If it's there, it's a cool hat. Yeah, go for it.
It was intended for Bobby McMahon,
That's true, which is greasy. I'm not disputing the greasiness, Noodles. I'm just saying if it's a cool hat and whoever threw the hat knows they're never getting it back anyway, what do they know?
Excuse me?
Bobby McMahon doesn't care one way or the other. He just scored a hat trick in the NHL.
Why don't we do the proper thing? Doogie, would you like to read that excerpt into the text chain about the hats?
Okay. Doogie, did you hear? I didn't even hear that. What did you say?
Doogie, do you want to read how you can get your hat back? Do you want to be by the book?
Yes.
Put it in the group.
Go ahead, Doogie.
So scavenging the internet here, and it says a lot of the hats are sent to an organization. They clean them out, and they donate them to local shelters in the area.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Okay.
All right.
Then from that standpoint, I guess if it's a charitable thing, get that hat back on the ice. Smarten up.
Yeah.
Bobby McMahon scored a hat trick.
Unless it's a great hat.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Then
It's a cool hat. Like then you think long and hard. But anyway. All right, that's probably enough. We get enough? I think we got enough.
That was good.
We've
that
had
was
enough.
good. There was one in there that we couldn't bring on air. I don't know if you saw that one.
I have not seen. I don't know what's coming and what's going. I don't filter anything. Doogie goes right to the man, and that's it.
Yeah.
I called the guy out from last week. We had an exchange, and I said, I don't believe your buddy is Rodney the Clown on the side. And he admitted it was a lie.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Really?
Yeah.
See, that's my concern here. We need to filter
That's
through
why
these
we're going to
more.
filter. And he said, I'm sorry it was a lie. I do not have a friend named Rodney the Clown.
Rodney the Clown, that was a great bit, man. The idea that this guy was going to step in for his guy. And that's what I'm saying. There's way too many of these are like, I got my father-in-law, he's a piss tank, he's up there, he's got a glass eye, and it's like, what is going on here with all these people that listen to this show? And it just gets a little bit too carried away. I think we need to filter through these. Doogie, I think you have a high responsibility here.
Do we end
We're trying
the
to help
segment?
people.
Do we end the segment?
I love
Bees
this
a staple.
segment.
It's a staple.
It's a staple on Fridays. And you know what? For a couple outliers that are either made up and they're good
How about we
stories
do
and they're
this for
topical.
next week?
Yep.
Next week we do Dear Hazy B, but there has to be a sports twist involved.
Okay.
Like you can talk about your base. If you're a Mets fan, Dear Hazy B, do you think they turn the corner this year?
Yeah. Even the ticket stuff. Like, that's why we're
Yes,
here, right? That
there
kind
was
of
a
stuff.
sports twist to
That's
it.
legit, man. That's legit.
If your
but
uncle or dad is in the basement in their underwear,
we
smoking
can't do it
Colts,
anymore.
Yeah, we're
We
done
can't-
with that.
We can't
the
do that
Colts-
anymore.
The Colts were good, though. The Colt 44s or whatever
Those-
they're called.
well, those
the
were
wine
tip.
tip Colts.
Because there was the drink. Colt 45 is like a malt
Oh, yeah, that's a malt liquor. yeah.
liquor. Like,
Yeah.
and then the Colts are like mini
Yeah.
cigars, kind of.
No, Leanne just sent me a picture of a Colts Old Port rum and wine tip. You got to
Yikes.
see the box on this thing. It is. I remember them like they were yesterday. They were kind of like a wine-colored, like thin box, and I must have smoked thousands. Well, not thousands. Maybe.
Go
100
have a
of them
close
at some point.
conversation with someone that's had that Colt rye along with a wine tip and tell me what kind of breath you're getting back.
Tough.
Blow your eyebrows right off of your head.
Flame torch.
Just a flamethrower. It'll
Yeah.
burn your face right off.
Yeah, it really will.
Yeah.
It's as bad as it could ever possibly get. As
Yes.
bad as it could get. All right, we'll come back and put a cap on the afternoon. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, NBA All-Star Weekend down in Indianapolis. You got the Leafs against the Ducks tomorrow night. Anaheim went into Ottawa last night. They won big. The Leafs obviously coming off a win last night. The Leafs, in a bit of a soft part of the schedule. That said, who knows what you expect tomorrow night. They have a tendency to play down to their competition, but last time they played Anaheim was in Anaheim. I wonder if the Toronto Sun will get down there and interview their
Lucas
goalie.
Dostal. Dostal will play because John Gibson got hurt last night. He left after the second period.
These goalie injuries have been outrageous for years now.
I saw a stat because Gibson left the game, I think, in Montreal 2 games ago. I saw a stat where I think he has not finished 14 games in the last year and a half or something crazy. Like it's, but that Dostal kid is he's a good young goalie.
Good.
We'll see. I mean,
What
that's
do you
the
mean
guy
by that? 14 games, he's just he had to come out?
Well, I don't know if it's injury related or pulled. Because I remember Dallas Eakins, I think, pulled him 8 times or something last year, but he also had some injury stuff too. So it's between injuries and inconsistencies, Gibson's that's where he's at right now.
Yeah.
He didn't finish the game last night. He did 2 periods. He got clipped. Lyubushkin ran him over, and then I think Ridley Gregg or something went hard to the net, or Tarasenko, and popped he hit it. It was just a small collision, but I think he was hurt from before.
Well,
so
if you're
knows?
his backup, I guess the rule you better be prepared, is what you're saying,
Better be
Noodles.
ready. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're John Gibson, because there's a guy, John Gibson, name comes up all the time, so much promise. At one point was obviously great goalie. They give him a ton of money long term, and it's just like never went anywhere, you know. And like Anaheim in town tomorrow, people are buzzing about Trevor Zegras. Do they move off him? I don't think like a playoff team is taking Zegras. That feels like a fresh start kind of.
He's injured right now. He didn't play. Like, you lay eyes on the roster tomorrow. I like there is. I went through it. Obviously, there are a lot of names that you probably wouldn't recognize. Young kids and that Carlson is going to be a nice player. He looked decent last night. That Leo Carlson, high draft pick.
Yep.
But there are some guys you were like, didn't recognize that. Adam Henrique is an interesting one.
He's on the
trade bait board pretty high.
He's on the trade bait board. He has to be, right? Like, it's Gensel who's hurt now, and then Henrique basically.
Yeah, their best player is that Troy Terry. I've always liked him. Actually, I shouldn't say that. McTavish is a nice player. Vetrano was their all-star.
Mm-hmm.
You know, our buddy Ryan Strome, friend of the show.
Yep.
You know, he played well last night, but they've got a fourth line of Ross Johnston. You remember Ross from the Island?
Big Ross, 44.
Yeah. Sam Carrick and Bo Gruel. So they run around like they get
big. Around. You think Reeves will play tomorrow night? Is that what you're suggesting? Or
I would see, if I'm looking across at Ross Johnston, I would imagine Ryan Reeves gets the
I'll
call.
tell you what, Bobby McMahon is an NHL fourth line player in my opinion. I'm not taking him out of the lineup.
Well, I agree with you based on what he's done the last couple of games. You know,
but I've always kind of liked his body positioning, the ability to fend off, like get in the forecheck. He's just, you know what you're going to get. It's just, there's some dependability there, some sandpaper. I just think he's a guy that you can put in the fourth line. You know what you're going to get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy for him. He's a guy that, for me, he hadn't done much, and I was interchangeable. But I'm happy that he's settled in. Maybe it's about getting ice time, getting some stability on a line where you can get some chemistry going. You know, Gregor gets moving a little bit, that type of stuff.
Yeah, it's the chicken or the egg, right? Like, do they have to show you something to give them more ice, or do you have to give them more ice for them to show you something? You know,
and maybe I'm just saying that after the hat trick. I'm not sure, but I've always kind of liked him, just up and down. He's physical. He likes to get on the forecheck, and he moves pretty good. I just think that there's some predictability there and some consistency there.
Yeah, if he stays, you got to be physical. You got to pot home some goals. You know, generally, maybe in a situation where you're going to kill some penalties. It's been an interesting week because, again, you know, on Tuesday, I believe it was Tuesday, when Tavares was out and Marner was out, it was the Bobby McMahon show, and it was the depth pieces. And then last night, you go back to the well, and it's like, well, Matthews scores 3 and Willie wins it in overtime. And more often than not, that's what's going to happen. And more often than not, that's why Keefe's going to play them 23 minutes, right? Yeah. Because as much as, you know, you want to rely on depth, and I think if they felt better about their depth, they would roll out that depth more. But they're so committed to the top end of this team. And naturally, considering what Matthews does every night, Willie's done basically all year, those guys are going to play a ton. And you're just going to rely on them to break the bank for you. Like, they got to go out and win games, and that's precisely what happened last night. Now, a game like tomorrow, again, with all due respect to Anaheim, you should be able to roll some lines. You know, you should be able to show up. It's your building. Run them out of the building early, and don't let them back in the game. Get 2 points. Because, again, you're in the midst of a tougher, like a softer part of the sked, but it's coming. Like, they're on their way to Vegas next week. Then they go to Colorado. They come home to Vegas. Edmonton's coming here. They got multiple games with Boston still forthcoming. Like, they got a tough sked down the stretch. So, Leafs in action tomorrow night. Raptors obviously off for the All-Star game down in Indianapolis, and we'll see what Scotty Barnes brings on Sunday. And down at the Genesis at Riviera on the PGA Tour, Tiger Woods had to withdraw due to illness today. Sounds like it was just like a flu-like thing, and he's done.
It's just a lot. Like, it's just a lot. We were just talking in the group text. It's like ambulances, and the guy's just not feeling. It just seems like it's over the top. I mean, I don't know. I've heard from some other people that have boots on the ground that this might not be illness. It could be his back, and it just seems like a lot when all you want to do is see him put 4 rounds together, and it's either WD or it's MC, and it's crazy stuff. Like,
right. Well, exactly. Like, there's literally updates on whether or not he required an ambulance, and now the updates are like, no, he doesn't. He's fine.
Just needed an IV.
Yeah, it's like, what is going on here? But
It
it's
could be
2
game
points.
over. I'm predicting it could be game over.
It's not going to be game over. It's not,
Dude,
it's not going to be game over.
I don't know why you're like laughing.
It's not going to
at that.
happen. It's not going to because he just launched this line. He wants to play.
I understand. I'm going to wear the line.
Exactly.
But it's like if all the work he has to do to get to the first tee for the one tournament a month.
It's tough.
And if he can't get through that, he's going to say, "This is just not worth it to me, man." It's not far away from that.
You say it's game over, and Jeff McDonald's driving to your house right now.
He's been awfully quiet today, not shockingly. All right. Thanks to everyone behind the scenes for helping out all week. We appreciate it. Everyone for tuning in, radio, TV, podcast, web. We appreciate that. We're out of here. Enjoy your evenings. Enjoy your weekends. We're back Monday at
the 19-year-old Harbor 60. Show your game, or Doogie might sweep in. 4 p.m.
We'll chat then.